is our latest show on the Tesla Semi. Now, I wanted to point out that this past, about 2 weeks ago, as I was preparing for a semi show, there's an entity called Reddit. And I read a piece that indicated that insiders were kind of tired of the semi because it really was a situation where, in general, it wasn't working, but they were trying to find a way to sort of keep the tail going, if you will. So I wanted to address that issue today, along with sort of latest updates on the semi. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like better ideas on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. So today's focus is obviously on the semi. Now, the one note I should make before we dive into our primary topic is that I've been consistently amazed by the number of folks that watch our show and embrace some of the things we cover relative to the semi, and it's appreciated. Now, I was a little bit worried after I read this piece in Reddit about the future of the semi and its viability, because it seemed to suggest that insiders weren't impressed by the viability of the semi. And this is actually a big deal. You'll notice, if you notice our viewers, many of the folks are in Europe, in places like Stuttgart, where you have a mountain environment, there 8,000 people a year are dying, primarily from the fumes generated by those vehicles or electric trucks in the mountains. And so therefore there's a stronger interest in places like that, where there are a lot more people suffering the effects of pollution, especially from diesel. So what I wanted to review today is the fact that what I then did was I called a friend of the show at Tesla and I said, well, is it true that the only way the semi works is if there's a group of engineers to chase the truck all the time to fix all the issues that the vehicle consistently has? And the response I got back, I thought, was kind of cool, interesting. And that was, yes, there have been some breakdowns. I've been driving a regular semi truck and driven by and looked at broken down semis along freeways heading into areas where there's a lot of Tesla activities. And so then my response was, well, what was the issue with these breakdowns? Are we facing battery issues? What kind of challenges are the vehicles facing? So the response I got back was kind of interesting. What it was pointed out to us is that Tesla might have made a slight error in process. It turns out that the problem they're having right now, or one of the problems that the semi is having, is that if you charge on an overnight basis the vehicles, everything has been running fine. If you try to supercharge the semi, you now run into this problem where the speed of charge will actually shut down the charging facility. And it will take as long as it'll blow out the solenoids, is what I was told. And it can take as long as 3 days to sort of re-energize those solenoids in order to have them be viable. Now, it was also suggested that Tesla might have made a mistake because if you remember the Maxwell acquisition by Tesla, they kind of took the dry erase portion of that company and sold the rest of it off, which include making your own solenoids. And that research needs to be figured out relative to this whole issue of rapid charging and how you modify the solenoids to be able to handle that with the amount of power that the semi draws. So my response to this was, wow, I didn't realize that was an issue. I thought that slow or fast charge was fairly relevant. And it was irrelevant because, it's still a charge. But evidently, when you're driving that much energy into the semi, it can actually create some issues. So the next issue that we're talking about is that, bottom line, Tesla stock prices sort of stayed on a narrow right now and is just doing okay, not a monster number. And so I just wanted to point out that it's nice to see it laterally flat rather than huge down. Obviously, we'd love to have the huge up. It's my belief right now that the uncertainty about the charging network is starting to affect what's going on with Tesla and the other EVs. If we're going to have a robust charging network consistent with how we charge cars, let's say, I think consumers can be confident and comfortably buy. But if that charging network plan is in some doubt, I think that's going to affect the 20 or so percent, maybe 30 or so percent buyers who are on the fence about EV or not. So for those of you who have any influence on this at all, please take time to put your hat in on this whole issue, because we'd love to see more EVs on the road and less pollution as a result. So the overall issue right now is that, yes, the Tesla Semi is indeed viable. Is it having slow to market? Absolutely. And I can see why, because profit margins are low and the cost of the vehicle is high, given the number of packs that are being done. The one other portion of my Tesla Semi show today that I wanted to review is that I've been having a conversation about whether or not Tesla should invest in the 2 to 3 days that it would take to simply port the facilities in Fremont over to semi-production, and that way we could get scale production ASAP. The problem this presents is that the production that would normally be coming through there would be stopped, and the net of 1 or 2 weeks of shutdown for the transition to the Semi would be impactful of those sales. And I have to say, I don't agree with the argument. I think there should be a shutdown. I think we should switch to the Semi and simply move the other domestic production for that line to Austin done, because they're not selling as many of the Cybertrucks that they planned, and you can make the other vehicles in Austin and ship them out, so it's no big deal. So the answer is, yeah, the Semi can be produced in Fremont, and yeah, the retooling of that would take multiple days, and then if you wanted to go back to producing cars, that would take multiple days. But the biggest issue right now is that we've had a 75% drop in the cost of batteries, which lends itself to those Semis being produced right now at a way better price than they could have been even a year ago. So we definitely look forward to your comments on all of this. Please take time to like and subscribe, and just a reminder to join us on Patreon. Now, as you know, we have a number of health tips that we've been presenting from different types of doctors. We tend to emphasize one for a few weeks and then move on. I definitely like the 25 leg lifts a day, one that was recommended by University of Michigan doc. We also have the 3 days a week no meat suggestion that was made by a kidney doc that I wanted to encourage you to think about. And I wanted to add to our kidney doc conversation because one of them suggested no more than once a week for fried foods. And that could be regular fried or it could be air fried. The whole idea is that for 1,000 years, your body's been consuming a certain type of food. And by moving on to fried foods, that's a foreign object in your body that your body simply says, hey, why don't I stir that for a while next to my primary organs, because I don't know what it is and I do not know what to do with it. So this might be another thought to consider in terms of what you're consuming on a weekly basis. I also wanted to note that I would appreciate any input you guys have on this. I've been doing testing combinations of fruit. So for example, putting apples with oranges in a bottle of water and then drinking half to a gallon of that a day or so as a way to get some taste into just drinking water. And any input you guys have on ideas that you might have would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, auf alle Hitro, Hoda Hafez, Drasi, Ni Hao Ma, Namaste, Hotep. And in Jamaica, we say, enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.